Good morning, everyone, and this is just so good that we had to start early. These two male impala have locked horns, and they've been going at it all morning. We could hear them from camp, and I'm just going to try and reposition. They've shuffled out of view, and welcome, everyone. Welcome on board. This is really, really awesome stuff. We've been hoping to show you male impala actually locking horns and fighting. It is the rutting season, and we've seen a lot of vocal displays, a lot of running around of males chasing one another, but we've yet to actually get them clashing with one another. But that has all changed this morning, and we are here on Djuma Private Game Reserve in the Sabi Sands. And for those of you who may be joining for the first time, a very warm welcome. And just to let you know, this is live. This is happening this very second. It's not only live, it's also interactive. So if you'd like to ask questions at any stage, please send them through. And to do that, you could hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, or send an email through to questions@WildEarthTV. I'm teamed up with Brian on camera this morning, and Mark and VM are also out. They're following up on reports of a leopard seen very close to the camp last night. It was a young male. That's the report we got. So good prospects for leopard. They have been evading us a little bit over the last few days. It's very interesting, well, I think it is at least, when you do find two animals like this that have decided that the only way that they're going to be able to determine who's boss is by an actual physical fight. Very often in nature, animals will not actually get to this point, and they'll be able to establish dominance through various displays and rituals. Male impala often just chase one another around, and like I said, even though we're about 2 weeks into the 1 month long rutting period, this is the first time we've been able to show you impala locking horns. Now, we've been with them for about 15 minutes and they've locked horns twice. There's a lot of backwards and forwards, but I'm fairly convinced they're going to go at it again, and you can expect to see a cloud of dust and some incredible displays of strength and speed. It's dangerous business, though, for the impala, not only because they run the risk of hurting one another, but they are so focused on their own fights that they may not be aware of any predators approaching. And chatting to one of the guides from a neighboring lodge last night, he told me that he saw quarantine just meters away from two male impala doing this very same thing. They all thought quarantine was just about to make the final pounce, and then some monkeys started alarm calling nearby, very luckily for the impala, and that stopped the impala. They are aware that monkeys can help them, and that gave them that split-second warning just before he pounced. Interestingly enough, he already did have a different male impala already stashed up in a tree, and it is common to find leopard with male impala at this time of the year. It's certainly the easiest meal. And he tried to catch another one between heading off from his kill to go and have a drink. On his way back, he stumbled upon another great opportunity that he almost succeeded in. And imagine if he had have had two impala up 2 trees in the same area. Well, good morning everyone, and this is another good morning to all of you who may have only joined now. It is the normal start time, so you're not late, but there was such great action unfolding with these two male impala that we couldn't resist going live a little bit earlier to try and share with you the incredible battle that we've been witnessing this morning. I'm sure it's not long before they are going to clash horns again. They're just getting their breath back and taking some time to think about their next moves, I guess. We were alerted to their presence when we were at the vehicles this morning getting ready to head out, doing all the checks. We could hear their horns clashing. So they've been at it for a while now. I mean, at least an hour that we know of. And I wonder how much longer they're going to continue for. And I wonder who's going to be the winner. It is difficult to tell the two impala apart, well, at least it is for me. But it may be worth all of us picking one of these and seeing who we think may come out on top. You'll notice they are darting out their tongue almost uncontrollably. The reason for this is because they will process smell at this time of the year, and smell and scent will be a very important part of what's going on now. The smell of females in season, the smell of these other males also, with all their testosterone and pheromones being released, and that tail wagging, as well as wagging another appendage between their legs, are all very typical signs of male impala that are in full swing, full rutting swing. There was actually a third male impala almost refereeing this bout a little bit earlier. I'm not sure where he's gone. And again, I just find it so interesting how these two have ended up having their own little debate here. And that third male, obviously, for some reason, doesn't feel the need to compete with these two. Maybe they've already established that he's not a threat, and it's just these two now trying to determine who's boss. What's also interesting is that there's no females around, so I'm not sure what these two males are fighting for. They often do, well, I do, they often fight for patches of land initially. Even if there may be no females around, they need to establish their property, so to speak. And then once they've established a patch of turf that is theirs, they can try and convince some ladies to stay on it. It's a beautiful morning, and you'll notice it's overcast. Usually now the sun would be peeking over the horizon, but it's cloudy, and because of the cloud cover it's a lot warmer than normal, because the cloud has had a blanketing effect, keeping all the warmth in the lower atmosphere. So not nearly as cold as yesterday, and really looking forward to this morning's drive. It's my last drive before I head off on leave for a few days. So always sad to leave, but looking forward to a break. And the good news is Brent will be back to fill in while I'm gone. Follow. So really interesting though that Millie said she has seen impala who had their horns locked for many, many hours, but it sounds like they managed to untangle them, which is great. Otherwise you could imagine it would be a very slow and uncomfortable way to go, being stuck with your enemy by the head. And it does happen. I found kudu with interlocked horns, a skeleton. I mean, lions had even fed on them. The whole carcass had been torn apart, but the two skulls were still joined at the horns. And the same thing can also happen with buffalo and evidently impala too. What I've also seen, Millie, is on 2 different occasions on walking safaris I've come across carcasses of impala that had been killed by other impala during the rut. There was no predator in sight and all we could see were puncture wounds from the horns. So occasionally these fights can even end in death. And as we went live a little bit earlier this morning, a little bit earlier than normal shall I say, the one impala was certainly in a very, very dangerous scenario. It had a horn up against its throat, and at any stage that horn could have punctured into its throat and possibly severed an artery or vein. Now all this backwards and forwards and toing and froing will only last so long, and then one of them is going to make a move. And be ready, because they are lightning fast. And I don't think it's much longer before we see some more action. Well, good morning, Lisa Osborne, and welcome on board with us. Lisa has mentioned that she thinks the one on the left is more dominant, and it certainly appears that way. The one on the right does more backing up than going forward. Now that could possibly just be its style. I guess if you equate this to humans, some boxers will shy away and dance around the ring until the opportune moment, when only then will they strike forward. And maybe we could assume the same thing for these impala. What have they seen? What have they heard? There's a bunch of students going for a walk, so that doesn't bode too well for us. But I think these impala are going to be so caught up in their own fighting, and this is interesting to see, because like with predators in the area, they are oblivious to a bunch of people taking a walk past them. And like I said, there are students out from America who are here doing some really wonderful training and assessments. Here they go. And this is exactly what I'm talking about, and this is why they can get themselves in trouble. Even though there's a potential threat nearby, they are only concerned about their fight. Wouldn't it be nice to be going on a walk through this wilderness area this morning? Lucky people. But a really, really great example of how these impala are so caught up, so focused on their own battle here, that the only time we've seen them lock horns is when there were people nearby. Now I've just heard another impala making its rutting call. What's going to happen here next? Are they going to... And I wonder if this one was victorious. The other one certainly did seem to back off and run away, but oh, here we go. I'm just going to turn the vehicle around. There's another impala that's coming into the fray here, and what is going to happen? What shall happen next? Just trying to keep an eye on where the other one went so we can make sure we know what's going on. But I think for now, let's focus on these two. Like I said, there were 3 around earlier. Look at how this one's walking with his tail erected, making himself look as big and mean as possible. And isn't that a bizarre noise, that gurgling, burping roar that they let out? Well, to them this is all making sense. To us it can be hard to understand, but it certainly does make for some great viewing. This individual's voice is almost hoarse. Good morning to Bulleray on Twitter, and welcome on board with us. Thanks so much also for sending your question through. Now, Bulleray is inquiring as to, let's say, I think it's almost fair to say that the individual that we last saw was the victor of that battle. Look, we could be wrong, but the other one certainly did run away. Now, will that other individual that seemingly lost this battle, will he wait until next year to try his luck again? I don't think so. I think that they will continue to try as much as they can. They may move into different areas and try their luck against other males. It does turn over. It's a rolling process. So no one male will be able to maintain a territory or a patch of turf where there is going to be a large herd of females. There's no ways he's going to be able to maintain both his territory, mate with all the females, chase all the other males away for a whole month. It's too tiring, and in all likelihood what's more realistic is that they only remain dominant for a few days and then lose condition, become too tired, and another male will come in, maybe up to a week. But there is going to be substitutes for the dominant males and the different herds, and I think they certainly will keep trying until eventually they get lucky. Obviously, things that will prevent them continuing non-stop action would be fatigue, so they may take some time to rest and relax, rethink their maneuvers.
Do teamwork this morning in our efforts to find something. Noise that we can just hear. Bush is opening up as we approach Sydney's Dam, and bush and circles of cutline. Very short grasses, quite typical of the area around the guarri trees, the guarri bushes, and this whole area is dotted with fairly large, round, very green guarri bush. The guarri stays green all year round. It's a very hardy leaf, quite leathery. towards Sydney's dam in the distance. Getting very dry. But that's the Franklin on the left. And we got picture. Really jolly good. Good golly, Miss Molly. You have picture. See the type of terrain that I was talking about. Short grasses dotted with the green guarri bushes. And it's normally here that we either find there's a wildebeest that lives here. It's probably the wildebeest that we saw on Sandy Patch, or that was lying down. We saw his tracks. The fact that he's moved from this open patch might mean that there was something around last night, but I'm not seeing anything as yet. Hippo tracks in the road. It's quite typical for any dam, waterhole area where hippo reside. They'll come out at night and cover quite a lot of ground feeding, grazing. They only eat grass. Cats to sleep in these short grass bushes. They offer perfect shade. But not today. We've got a bit of cloud, so it's going to keep the temperature down at the moment. Roughly 16, 17 Fahrenheit. And it's a very still morning, barely a breath of wind.
Just an update, some approach that's from Coral, moving towards Portal Boundary, Lordy, that side. Part of South Africa. We're in a very large national park. I hope there's some new viewers out there. For those of you who are, probably one of the biggest national parks on the continent of Africa. One of the biggest in the world. It is. Sorry, I just saw something. Interesting. Is that a duiker on the road there up ahead? Just eyes going off the road. It was silhouetted so nicely. It was an elephant dragging his trunk as he came across the road and went in here. You can actually see, stop to the left, you can actually see the grasses here now, almost in the middle of your screen, where he's flattened the grasses as he's walked into Buffalo, so come out of Djuma. Big elephant bull. When the grasses get dry, it's very easy to see where they've been, because quite often you get these flattened grasses. Hippo have been wandering up and down from one side of the road to the other grazing. They've got to cover a lot of ground, and the drier it gets, the more ground they have to cover at night to eat the amount that they need to bulk up for the day. They don't really eat anything in the water. There isn't really any aquatic vegetation that hippo will eat, because they are predominantly a grazer. What we would call a bulk grazer. and the main junction onto Buffelshoek, usually a good place for tracks, but at the moment only hippo tracks. Maybe we'll make our way back up to Buffelshoek cut line later. For now though, we'll get back to Aubrey's Road. Funny, Scott and I saw some harvested termites yesterday, and there's normally an indication of a weather change, and I guess, well, this is the moisture that the termites were expecting. Not necessarily rain, but certainly quite a bit of moisture in the air with this cloud, fairly low-hanging cloud. Oh, hello Impala ram. Run off to the bush. Kudu tracks, old giraffe tracks. These giraffe tracks must have been those poor giraffe that we saw the other day. Well, I guess by now somewhere on Buffelshoek. So it depends on. He's a little bit further to. Somewhere on Sandy Patch.
Welcome back everyone, and apologies for the technical issues we're facing at the moment. I've been lucky enough to stumble upon these leopard tracks that Mark has been following as well, and I'm just at a road junction now checking to see whether it's either taken a left fork in the road or a right fork in the road. It's quite a tricky area for us to establish which direction it headed in, because the sand in this area is very hard and there's only a fine film of dust over the road, so the leopard's tracks will be very light and faint pad marks in this thin layer of dust. The thicker and softer the sand or dust, the more prominent the tracks, obviously. So in a little bit of a tricky area, and I'm just going to hop off the vehicle quickly to check and see if there is any further sign. Now, because you don't have any picture at the moment while I'm off the vehicle, you can just try and listen, and listening can be one of the best ways for us to find animals or be alerted to an area where we could find animals from alarm calls. And there's a few birds calling, so enjoy the morning chorus, and I'll be back with you in a second. Sorry to leave you so long. There's technical issues, and sorry for leaving you stuck on the vehicle here while I was exploring for tracks. It's a very difficult area, and I actually haven't come up with anything conclusively. What I found though while I was looking is a little porcupine quill. Now, just because it's a little quill doesn't necessarily mean it came off a little porcupine. They've got a huge variety of different sized and shaped quills on their body regardless of their size, so this could well have popped out of a big one. This is the end that is stuck into the porcupine. They're both fairly sharp, but the sharper end is certainly the end that faces outwards, and that's what helps protect the porcupine from predators. Now, porcupine can and will sometimes be killed by leopard and lion, as well as honey badgers. A host of predators will try and attack them, but more often than not they manage to evade any problems because they simply always rear and reverse themselves into any potential threats, keeping the sharp end jabbing towards whatever may be causing trouble for them. So, we shall plug that into the dash here, and hopefully it will direct us towards this leopard. That into the dash here, and hopefully it will direct us towards this leopard. I know Hayden, one of the other presenters, has a lucky porcupine quill, and it has provided him with some good luck over his time spent out here exploring Djuma and Arathusa. To not necessarily follow every single paw print, but to I think his tracks are going down the road on the left hand side of this track. So again, just to follow the general movements along the roads is your first and kind of best option to start with. If you drive all the roads in the area where the tracks have been and you don't find the leopard, well then you can assume that it's either moved off or it's somewhere nearby off one of the roads. They don't only move down the roads, but I guess you could equate it to us using highways. We use highways when it suits us, but then at some point you're going to turn off the highway and start taking smaller roads until you get to your final destination. Now, the one concern that I have about the direction these tracks are heading in is that it is going towards one of our boundaries. Now, it could well have stopped or made a kill or be sleeping before that boundary, so we need to check all the way up to the boundary, but I fear that this animal may have crossed out. We're gonna try something a little bit different right now, and because of the technical issues this morning, sadly you missed a beautiful sequence of an African fish eagle flying over with a kill in its talons. Now I couldn't tell what the kill was. Maybe you'll be able to tell, and the reason why you're going to be able to tell is because we're about to play you enjoyed. So in the next few seconds, enjoy this little clip and try and work out what it was. Fish eagles will predominantly feed on fish, but they'll also catch other animals like birds as part of their prey. So see if you can work out what it was. Enjoy. What it is, and I hope you enjoyed that. Let us know your thoughts. Send us through some questions by hashtagging Safari Live on Twitter or sending an email through to questions@WildEarthTV. Now, there's a road just ahead of us where it is very sandy, and we'll easily be able to tell whether in fact this leopard is still with us or whether it's crossed into a neighboring property where we will not be going. Good morning, Maggie in Vancouver, and welcome on board with us. Maggie would like to know, what is this porcupine quill made out of? It looks like bone, and I couldn't agree more. It does look very bone-like, Maggie, but it's actually made out of keratin, so no different to our fingernails or our hair or the horn of a rhinoceros. All keratin, and I would fairly easily be able to snap. It wouldn't snap, it wouldn't break, but I'd be able to bend it in half. So it's quite pliable. I don't want to do that just yet, but just to give you an idea, if I was to snap it, it wouldn't actually break and shear off. It's fairly pliable, but you would be able to bend it, and then it would have a kink in it permanently. So I don't know if that made any sense, but that gives you an idea of how strong they are. Obviously, that's bending it sideways, but when they are going to be attacking prey, they're going to be reversing, and they're going to be this kind of motion, and then it's very strong. That would go into my hand very, very easily, but if you do bend them sideways, they would snap. Okay. The target is back on and ready to find us a leopard. Now, I'm just going to jump off for a second and check to make sure we can confirm this leopard has crossed over the road. So give me a second, please. Well, it took me a while to find the tracks, and the contributing factor to that is because it's overcast this morning. So without the rays of the sun coming from a low angle from the side, casting shadows on the little toe marks, on the pad marks, it can be very difficult to see the tracks. But eventually I did find them, and they crossed through. The first track I saw is just over here, which again in flat lights is very difficult for you to see, just like it was difficult for me to see without any sunlight. In the same breath, if the sun is directly above us, then it's also equally as hard to track animals. So overcast weather, middle of the day, the worst time to track. Early morning, late afternoon, it's great. Problem is, sadly, it veered off and then headed into a property where we will not be going, as we don't have traversing there. But always fun to track animals, even if you don't find them. It's good to practice keeping an eye on where they could move. And we can go and look for something else. There's lots of animals out here, so we cannot become despondent just because we haven't found one. As we could possibly find another one. I'm battling to copy who exactly sent this. Delicate procedure, or not a delicate procedure, but a dangerous. Not for the actual art of procreating. I don't know if I'm using the right words here, but you're probably understanding what I mean. Porcupine do enjoy mating, not just for making babies, but just for social purposes. And I believe dolphins are another animal that also fall into that category, and then us as humans. So despite their very needly backs and lots of quills that will certainly make things interesting, they can and will mate, and I actually haven't seen them mating before or any footage of it, but I'm guessing that they can aim the quills in different directions. They do have the ability to erect them and flatten them accordingly, so that would be interesting. I'd suggest almost searching for a video of porcupine mating and see what comes up. I'm sure it would have been documented and videoed before in captivity somewhere, or possibly even in the wild. But like I said, it might be worth searching for a video. I'm battling to describe and think of how it actually happens. But good question, Jeffrey, and thanks for alerting all of our imaginations to the thoughts of porcupines mating. I think we shall head east on this road and possibly stop by the hyena den sites and see if there's any action.
Well, I need the Scott into the Scott's found. Are you going to follow up on those tracks into Aretusa?
Negative, Mark. I don't plan to.
Okay, copy, thanks.
Are you in that area? Are you gonna? you like to do that?
I can go and take a look. I'm currently heading towards Impala Plains from my sandy patch. I thought I'd just come around this way again.
Okay, copy, perfect. Well, then I'll leave that to you. Well, I thought that was a good feeling, so I was going to look at this probably later. That's why I can continue.
Yeah, I copy that. No, it is more or less some Bombili, but I'm going to just have a look to see if she may come across that Bombili Arathusa boundary. On this map because they don't have the power line. Okay, we'll go back to Scott. I'm making my way to Impala Plains and then I'll cross over into Arathusa. I'll see you in a little while and
these yellow-billed hornbills are about to show you a really interesting display that they perform when calling. Now you can see it's been calling a little bit since you've been with us. There's two of them in the tree, and if we wait a few moments, I think we're going to get lucky and see them holding their wings high above their head as they let out their call. You can see them both now in shot, and it really is a comical display. They did it once as we were driving past, and we've been waiting in now a few minutes for them to do it again. I'm guessing that they will. But like so many scenarios we face out here, patience is going to be our primary and best option if we would like to see them calling again. Well, great that you at least heard them calling. I'm just gonna wait a second to see where they land, as they may let off their call now that they have landed in another tree. We're very far away from them, but you still may well be able to see the display, which I'm hoping you will enjoy. So we'll just give it a few more moments. It's very... Well, it appears like very valuable time without the vehicle running, and that way that increases our chances of hearing some signals or clues that may be called out to us by the animals, And when the vehicle's running, it's a lot more difficult to pick up on all these clues. Well, I'm not sure how patient we should be here, and I am tempted to continue, and that's the way it is, Archie. Really awesome addition to the Safari Live product, but let us know your thoughts on the replays that we special site getting the broadcast to you, and I like the way you think, Bob. That's a very good idea. And when Brian and I next have a few moments, we will find a suitable spot for the porcupine on the antenna, and we will be try and get they do have a rifle with them as a security measure, and it is protocol for anyone walking around this area away from vehicles. Of hyena for basically the last 6 months since we started this most recent. Basically, the last 6 months since we started this most recent, from tiny little black for that is on beginning to beg and the cub to suckle, but you can see the cub is making just getting comfortable now. Relationships are managed correctly. We can actually live alongside them and enjoy everything they have to teach us and share with us. There's so much to learn about these animals that we don't necessarily know about, or that they keep surprising us about. And I hope you're enjoying spending the time with these hyena as much as we are. Well, again, huge apologies. It sounds like we're having a few more technical issues than normal this morning, and I believe the picture you are receiving is not the best. So, apologies for that, but seeing as though you may not be able to see the pictures very well, why don't you send me through some questions and we can just chat about anything you like. So if you'd like to discuss something with us or find out something you wanted to know about anything out here, feel free to hashtag Safari Live on Twitter and tag your question onto that, or send an email through to questions@wildearth.tv. Well, thanks very much to all of you, and I believe there's a number of you that have actually gone ahead and researched porcupines mating and even found some videos of that, and I cannot wait to have a look when I get back from drive. And again, thank you so much. We really do appreciate all the little things you do and share with us, and aren't we all so lucky to be involved in such a wonderful product that allows us to share thoughts and knowledge and research amongst one another, even though we are dotted all around the world in different time zones, different climates, but we're all here together essentially, which is quite remarkable. Speaking of remarkable, I wonder what Mark is up to. He said he could well head over to keep following the tracks of that leopard that, I must admit and come clean, I thought they had crossed into Sibambili, which was a property where we're not allowed to go, but I was in fact a little bit dazed and confused, and they had crossed into Arathusa. So Mark said that he could possibly head across there and continue on the tracks of that leopard. I'm thinking that we could possibly head off from the hyena den sites in a few minutes, because all is sleepy and calm here, and I would like to try and find some more action. Okay, well, to Inga, Carol, Maggie and Pam. Oh, what's going on here? What have these hyenas seen? Is there another hyena approaching? I'm guessing that's what's happening. They've certainly heard something. Ooh. Very, very interesting. Well, while we wait and watch, thanks very much to Inga, Maggie, Pam and Carol for sending through your thoughts on what you thought the fish eagle had caught. And interestingly enough, it's believed that it was a rodent potentially of sorts, or something with a tail, a squirrel or a mongoose. And that's interesting because, as its name suggests, it's a fish eagle that eats mainly fish, but in certain areas they will also eat rodents or squirrels or mongoose, even flamingos that I've seen, so even other birds. Well, this is when I wish our senses were as good as the animals that we are watching, because even though they can hear something and are aware of something, Brian and I are sitting here scratching our heads wondering what it could be. We haven't heard anything, smelt anything, but they certainly are aware of something that's got them very intently focused in a westerly direction. I'm guessing it was audio or something that they may have heard. I'm actually going to drive up there and have a look, because I can also hear Franklin alarm calling, and we can always come back to the hyena den, but we can't always go and follow up on whatever it is that's chased off those Franklin. The hyena are looking in the exactly same direction, so come along, let's go and have a look what exactly could be going on here.